Hi, and welcome to this last segment of Focal Point on AFR Talk. Brian Fisher is my name. Number to call, 888-589-8840. Another winnable war moment, looking at a piece from the Washington Times about how the IRS was flooded with comments on this rule about the 501c4s, and we urged you to weigh in. So here's a piece, Kellen Howell on the Washington Times, talking about the nonprofit organizations that weighed in and made their voices heard. Over 140,000 comments were generated total. The highest number of comments came from National Right to Work Committee. So they generated over 17,000 comments. The next, this is Washington Times, the next highest number of comments were filed by the American Family Association at over 16,000. So we were the organization that was responsible for generating the second most comments to the IRS on their desire to shut us down. These new regulations would shut down the AFARC4, shut down those voter guides we were talking about, shut down the legislative scorecards. So you made your voices heard, and it's being noticed even by the mainstream media. Another winnable war moment in Texas. Texas, by the end of this year, could be down, by September, in fact, could be down to just 6 abortion clinics because of the policies that they've adopted in Texas. They're closing 2 this week. The total of abortion clinics in the state of Texas that are open right now is down to 20. There are only 6 of the 20 that meet the new standards that have been set by the Texas state legislature. All but 6 of them could be closed by September. So that is a winnable war moment. Now, I just want to say one thing before we get back to the phones, 888-589-8840. Just want to say a word about these polls on same-sex marriage. There's been one that's gotten a lot of play, saying 59% of the American people now support same-sex marriage. I want to tell you one thing. These polls are absolutely worthless. And I'll tell you why they are worthless. I'm looking at a piece here from Atlantic Monthly, or theatlantic.com, which is not a conservative publication. They tend to, seems to me, to be kind of moderate, and they'll take people from kind of a range of views. But the guy that wrote this piece for The Atlantic said, look, refusing to photograph a gay wedding is not hateful. But remember that piece by Tammy Bruce, the lesbian who referred to the gay Gestapo. She said making a gay baker perform service against his will is slavery. Making him do it in violation of his conscience is abject tyranny. She also said in that column that the entire public relations agenda of Big Gay, of the gay Gestapo, is to get people to equate faith and bigotry. So that when people think, when they hear the term supporters of man-woman marriage or natural marriage, they think that's a bigot. So they get it in their heads that anybody that doesn't endorse the normalization of homosexual behavior is a bigot by definition. And they have been so successful at getting the American people to believe that that's what makes these polls on support of same-sex marriage absolutely worthless, because they have gotten, with the complicity of the mainstream media, they've got a great majority of the American people to believe something that's flatly untrue, completely erroneous, that if you support natural marriage, you're a bigot. If you oppose same-sex marriage, you're a bigot. They've got people to make that connection in their heads. And this guy in The Atlantic is saying, look, they're out there with this working assumption that homophobia, anti-bigotry, and hatred are what is motivating people to want to protect marriage. They've just got people making that assumption. It's absolutely not true. He says this assumption is wrong-headed, but nevertheless, it is out there. So Big Gay, with the complicity of the media, has gotten the American people to make the assumption that the only reason you would support natural marriage is because you are a bigot. So what happens then when a pollster calls the average American and says, do you support same-sex marriage? Now, the way that the average American is going to interpret that is, if I say no, I don't support same-sex marriage, that guy, that pollster, is going to think that I am a hate-filled, homophobic bigot. I'm not that. I don't want him to think that, so I'm going to say yes. It doesn't cost me anything to say yes. The guy is going to think I'm a wonderful human being, and the exchange is all going to go very well. So I just want to tell you, you can see these polls all the time. They are absolutely worthless because the mindset of the American people has been so tainted and so corrupt. I'm looking at a piece here by Dustin Suggins on hotair.com, basically making the same point that the intent behind this latest poll, Washington Post ABC News, this is the one that said 59% of the American people support same-sex marriage. He says this, that the real intent is to create a narrative. That is like a push poll. You know, that they were trying to create a narrative about the attitudes of the American people towards same-sex marriage. They really were not trying to get the public's opinion on the matters. They were trying to steer people, and he goes through the details. I won't bore you with the details, but he goes through the details about how that poll really was stacked. It was geared. It was designed to create a narrative, not really to assess where the American people are at. Well, let's go back to the phones. Let's grab a call from Kevin, Columbus, Mississippi. Kevin, welcome. What's on your mind?
Hi, Brian. I'm always thanking God for your program.
Thank you.
And the other programs on AFR. We're living under the grace of God, and we've got things so good in this land, and there are so many things that are so good. I'm kind of a reader. I remember reading August 1914. That's Alexander Solzhenitsyn. It's probably been 20 years since I read the book. Probably been 30 years since I read 1984. Some of the things that I hear talked about on some of the shows are surreal to listen to. The reason that I brought up Solzhenitsyn's book is because in that book he talks about what caused the war in Russia. And what happened was the Russian government was top-heavy. Now, we've had some tough economic times in this country for a number of years, and I didn't just start knowing this. What we are is top-heavy. People are going and playing golf. People are going and spending a lot of money. They're being paid to Las Vegas. I've never been to Las Vegas. Don't care to go, really. Nothing against Las Vegas. And I think you probably know what I'm alluding to.
Mm-hmm.
But this is ridiculous when someone like this congresswoman suggests that they're going to have some creative revenue generating, which means taxes.
You know, that was interesting to me,
else.
Kevin. It was interesting to listen to her talk because she was saying, look, there's no way that we're going to raise the gas tax. And there's no way that we're going to cut spending. So we're going to have to find some other creative way. We're going to have to try to sneak this past the American people or just print the money or just borrow it because we can't raise taxes, but we're not going to cut spending. So we've got to do something creative, which means more debt for the American people.
I've done some creative things. I'm drinking water most of the time now. I like grape juice. I haven't bought any grape juice since October. You know, I drink water. I just went and drank some water.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I did. You know, grape juice costs about, and I've seen it go up 40%.
So what you're saying is, you know, really all of us, Kevin, if our income doesn't grow or expenses grow and income does not, we just have to make adjustments. We've got to make changes. We've got to cinch our belts. We've got to reallocate resources. And isn't any reason why we shouldn't expect the government to have to do exactly the same thing. All right, well, Kevin, anything else you want to add real quickly?
The only thing is that a lot of the government employees have not really suffered any real hardship because of the economic downturn. They're still getting lavish benefit programs.
Well, yeah, and you know the unemployment rate in D.C. is just about the lowest anywhere in the country outside of North Dakota, and the 6 of the 10 richest counties in America are right around the D.C. area. So D.C. federal government doing just fine. All right, Kevin, thanks a lot. Let's go to James in New Way Park, North Carolina. James, welcome. What's on your mind?
Well, don't be fooled by this little dog and pony show between Obama and Putin. Israel is still the target by both. And not only that, why do you think he's talking about Ukraine being a sovereign country and at the same time doing everything possible to destroy our sovereignty? You lemmings out there, whoever you are listening, wake up. Don't start falling behind that clown every time he blows smoke out of his little pipe. Hey, the only place they can take you lemmings is right to the factory and make lemonade out of you. And remember, the Clintons gave ICBMs to China in his administration. What makes you think he's not going to give missile launching technology to Iran?
All right, well, listen, I appreciate the call, James. Thank you for that. You know, and I'm looking at some polling data here, and I think the American people are catching on to what James is talking about there. Here's a poll from, let's see who did this poll. Well, I don't have that right here in front of me, but it was a poll that was taken this week that indicated 71% of voters believe that life is the same or worse for young blacks than before President Obama came into office. Remember, he was going to be the great black hope. He was going to turn things around for the black community. 71% say, hey, it's the same or even worse. Only 16%, this is Rasmussen, only 16% of likely voters think that President Obama has made things better for young blacks. And among blacks themselves, it's even worse. Only 11% of blacks themselves believe that life has gotten better for African-American youths under Obama. And a new Fox News poll, Obama's approval rating down to 38, his disapproval at 54, getting worse by the day. Well, that's it for today's program. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening. Do not forget to bow low before God, stand tall before man, stand in the gap, and as the closure of abortion clinics in Texas proves, we're fighting winnable wars. See you tomorrow.
The views and